Now we live in a world where technology is something that we all use, and having skill sets developed or an understanding and competence around technology is important for the future. So how much time should your kids spend on a tablet? How much time should they spend on a phone, if any? How to regulate that time? How to make sure they're using it in a useful way? Welcome back to another episode of the Unstoppable Mindset Podcast. I'm your host, Sean Michael Crane. You guys, I just got back from one of the most impactful weekends of my life at the Genius Network annual event, Joe Polish's network, the Genius Network. If you don't know who Joe Polish is, go check him out. Google him, follow him on all platforms. This is one of the most incredible human beings I've ever met. He brought together the most successful, influential, impactful people in business, in all industries, in all sectors, in politics, in every aspect of life you can imagine into one room for 3 days. And I was fortunate enough to be there, to build relationships, listen, learn, and immerse myself in the energy that was just infectious in that room. And so I want to talk specifically about an individual I heard speak. His name was Zach Cass. Look him up, Google him. He's one of the most intelligent people on earth right now. He's very, very versed in AI technology. This guy just thinks differently, ticks differently. He was a contributor to ChatGPT, all these different things related to AI. And so he shared a lot of valuable information and insight with all of the attendees about AI and the future of AI and robots and all the stuff you see Elon Musk doing. The cool thing was he had a very optimistic perspective as to how we can integrate AI into our lives in the future, how it's going to ease human suffering, how we can fix things like cancer or people who can't walk, paraplegics, how they can actually walk one day and run, people who are blind. Every and anything you can imagine that has ailed and afflicted human beings, from addiction to physical handicaps to mental handicaps, we're going to be able to fix with AI technology. Then he said, we'll be able to do things to help us live our lives to the extent we're going to have so much free time, that's actually going to become the problem, right? So he shared a lot of interesting things about self-driving cars, houses that clean themselves, crazy stuff, right? One day you're going to be wearing a watch or a pair of glasses that's going to basically allow you to access all the information in the world in any given moment. So essentially, all human beings who have access to this technology will become geniuses. Can you imagine a world where everyone had the IQ of a genius, what that would be like? It's pretty incredible. But then we talked about this moment in time, and we talked about some of the negative implications of technology, specifically with children. And this is something that I'm always thinking about and I discuss with my wife. How much screen time should kids have? Now we live in a world where technology is something that we all use, and having skill sets developed or an understanding and competence around technology is important for the future. So how much time should your kids spend on a tablet? How much time should they spend on a phone, if any? How to regulate that time? How to make sure they're using it in a useful way? And so I asked Zach Cass this question because I've seen my daughter Scarlett on her tablet learn how to count to 10 in 4 different languages at the age of 3. And I've seen her and my younger son Preston, Scarlett and Preston, watch a YouTube video where these individuals were building pretend homes and doing all these things, and it would get their imagination going. And I'd see the creativity. Now they're drawing pictures and they're acting it out in real life. And so I think to myself, well, there is a positive aspect of technology in these devices. I don't want to just take it from them. But then there's been other points in my life where I think, they're on the screens too much, and I would just take it away completely. So I would always go back and forth trying to find that ideal middle ground. And I asked Zach Cass, what is the balance there for parents with children who want to be on tablets and they're using them at school, or older kids, adolescents who want to be on cell phones and social media? Where's the balance? Where's the balance? What's the right answer? And he essentially said there's no right answer. There's no right answer. As parents, it's our responsibility to protect our children. And number one, to demonstrate in our own behavior the proper use of technology and screen times. But number two, we have to be ultra present, and we have to be there in each moment to learn and kind of find that balance. Like, we have to learn from these situations we're in. We have to talk to our kids and educate them about the useful aspects of technology, and then how it can become detrimental, or how we can overuse them. And then also, we have to get them involved in sports and get them outdoors and find things that they enjoy, hobbies, passions, and make sure that they have a well-balanced life. So at the end of the day, for those of you listening to this, number one, if you're on your phone all day long and you're checked out at home, your kids are going to think that that's a normal thing to do and they're going to want to do it. So you're giving them less attention, but number two, you're demonstrating poor behavior for them. So it starts with our example, okay? That's first and foremost. Secondly, we have to understand that there is a proper way to let our children use tablets and devices where they can enhance the quality of their lives and their intellect and their creativity without it becoming detrimental. Okay. So as kids get older, though, I'm talking about as they get to be 12, 13, 14, 15, this is when the research is showing that screen time can become detrimental to adolescents. Roughly 50% of adolescents are addicted to social media. Now, mental health disorders in young people have risen drastically. In fact, the CDC reports that over 40% of teenagers have been diagnosed with mental health disorders in the year 2023. That's when this study was done. Now, there's a lot of contributing factors. It could be the food they're eating. It could be the toxins in the environment, maybe stuff going on at home, technology. You know, I think social media plays a big role in it because children and kids and teenagers, in fact, are seeing TikTok, they're seeing YouTubers, they're seeing influencers on Instagram. They're seeing these lives that they think maybe they should be living, or they're learning or living vicariously through these characters on social media, and they're failing to actually be able to live in their own lives. You know, they're thinking that this is how things should be, and when it doesn't match up to the lives they have, it can create some maybe cognitive dissonance, like some unease in them. And I think also there's an aspect of FOMO, like kids feel like they're missing out when they see other kids doing stuff. And not just that, but there's a lot of bullying that takes place on social media, and you see this with girls. In fact, I want to share a story with you, and this is really sad. Me and my wife were driving on the freeway probably 4 months ago, and there was traffic, and we saw these police cars and ambulance driving by, and we go, oh man, there must have been an accident. And then we get further down the freeway, and we realize the train stopped, and they're all rushing over to the stopped train. And this happens often in this area where a homeless person's wandering on the train tracks, or maybe somebody jumps in front of the train, unfortunately, and they run them over and kill them. And so that's what we thought happened. And as we get further down the freeway, we see the cops walking towards this body on the ground. And it was a lifeless body. And it turns out it was a 15-year-old girl who had left her high school that day when her mom dropped her off, and she walked in front of the train and committed suicide. Now, the reports came out after that she was being bullied on social media by other girls. And this is what I mean. At this young age where their brains are developing, you know, they're not fully mature. They're not emotionally mature. These young people are now subject to this world that we didn't have to grow up in. You know, social media is a different world, and it affects young people. It affects adults, right? And so not only is it highly addicting, and it's very, conflicting, especially on an emotional level, but man, it's causing these young people to be confused and to feel like if someone makes a comment about you that's public and other people like it and share it, it's the end of the world. Because at that age, you're so insecure. You worry so much about what people think and feel about you, and you want to fit in. You want to be liked. We all do. And so these are the reasons why, man, this is one of the most important issues in our life right now is in America is screen time and social media for kids. This is what I would propose. I think for young kids, they need to be monitored by their parents. I think you should get your kids tablets. Make sure you have the restrictions on there. Make sure they can't just watch YouTube and get on all these random things because YouTube will suggest a channel, suggest a show. Before you know it, your kids are watching something inappropriate. So put the restrictions on there. Download applications on the tablet that are educational. Like I told you, my daughter Scarlett learned to count to 10 in 4 different languages at 3 with this really cool little song that she was singing. It was so cute. So they can learn and they can absorb information at such a young age, but you got to protect them and make sure they're not able to access stuff that's inappropriate or that's too consuming, because kids will get addicted to shows and technology. And these applications are highly addictive for children. So you got to limit the amount of time they spend on them. And then you got to make sure you're getting them outside, involved in sports, involved in pro-social activities, hobbies, find their passions, right? You have to be a hands-on parent, man, more than ever. So that's the first thing. The second thing when it comes to teenagers is I believe that teenagers should only be able to get flip phones. And I think until 17, 18, they should only be allowed to use flip phones. And I don't know about social media. I don't. I mean, on average, the average teen in America spends 5.5 hours on social media per day. What are they doing? What are they doing in that 5.5 hours? That's a lot of time every day. And it's not productive. It's spent comparing themselves to others. Obviously, they're messaging and building relationships, but then a lot of kids struggle to build sound relationships in person, or they don't know what to do when they're not with their phone, because their mind is used to that constant stimulus, that dopamine response they get from an Instagram message, a TikTok video. Research shows and demonstrates that these social media platforms are so addicting, and the creators know what they're doing because they want to keep people on the platforms. So when you have young people who cognitively haven't developed, emotionally haven't developed, they're not mature enough, they don't have self-control, self-restraint, like they're going to get so consumed and addicted to these things. And that has such a negative cascading effect on their emotions. And down the road, are they more likely to get addicted to food or drugs or alcohol? Like, you got to understand the implications here. So, we don't want to ever make these types of rules as a country. Obviously, we're trying to get away from rules and regulations. But God, when it comes to protecting young people, like if I was in charge, I'd take away Lucky Charms and all this bullshit out of the grocery stores. I'd drastically change the ingredients in fast food. I'd put some fucking hard stops to some of these things. And then when it came to phones, I'd make a national ban on smartphones for teenagers. And I think with social media, I don't think they need to be on it until they're 17 or 18. They're still very young at that age. And I didn't have social media until I was in my 20s. I didn't have Instagram until I got out of prison at 30 years old. So it's like I didn't suffer a struggle in life because I didn't have it. I learned it very quickly when I was at an age where I was more mature and I could use it for its intended purposes, to grow and share my message and to build meaningful relationships. Young people need to focus on learning, building relationships in person, hobbies, sports, developing character. They don't need to worry about social media and all this other stuff. So that's what I would do. I would give the kids flip phones, and I would say no social media until you're 17 or till you graduate high school. I want to know in the comments below, I want you to share this clip with any parents, anybody that you know who is in a position of influence or has an opinion on this subject. I really want to hear your thoughts and feedbacks. I'm not like saying everything I say is right here and I know all the answers. I want to create open dialogue where we as parents and leaders of this country can come together and really collaborate and share one another's opinions and work together to make the right choices to lead and guide our younger people and the future of this country. So comment below, share this video and this message or this podcast with anybody that you know that could benefit from hearing it. And please share with me anything that you think and feel about this subject.